Yeah, the chats are coming in. I'm seeing a lot of very amazing ones. Amazing, fun, nice, fun, exciting. So I'm seeing fun taking the day. Yeah, the word fun. So many people find Scratch to be very fun, at least so far. Yeah, so for those who are joining us, what we are doing currently is we are experience with Scratch using one word in the chat. Okay, so feel free to continue as we proceed. Kenabi says, fantastic, amazing. Okay, so the webinar today will be focusing majorly on three key areas. The first one is teachers' reflections. We get to hear about various experiences um, when it comes to Scratch in the classroom, yeah, and we get to build and understand more from the experience stories that are shared. Lastly, we get a time for maybe sharing more and reflecting from these particular experiences and seeing how they can help us chart the way forward. Okay, then we will get straight to it. So we can never fail to mention uh, the four P's plus one of creative learning, because this is something that comes out very clearly. And even with the previous experiences that we've had, they are very core and very crucial in ensuring that we achieve the best learning outcomes, not just with our students, but even with ourselves. So, for example, when we have the projects, this progressive work that we do towards improving, let's say, the work that we are focusing on, could be the project that we're building on Scratch. How is it important to us? So the most important bit isn't the final product. Rather, it is that process of continuously improving on it. Passion goes without say. I'm happy with the various teachers who've joined us. We did a very amazing exercise with when we are focusing on learning areas that teachers are passionate about. So even we as educators understand how important being passionate about the work that you're doing is. Then play. Um, Learning, I think the best way of learning is when we have play. You get to tinker, you get to explore as much as you can with what you're doing, and hence you get to learn the most. Then when it comes to peers, we get to learn from each other. We leverage each other's strengths, and we are able to improve on whichever work we are doing and get the most out of it. Then all this is brought together by the purpose in which we are working, whatever we are working on, and this enables us to achieve our end goal. Yeah. Then the Scratch guiding principles still remain. One of the great things about Scratch, and I'm happy all of us are very positive about it, is even from those of us who are very experienced with Scratch to those who are relatively new, we all agree things. And some of the ways in which we are able to achieve this, it's because this guiding principle, like low floors, it ensures that anyone can get into this at any particular point of time and get to learn and build from it. The other bit is the wide walls. So Scratch has this amazing appeal to a wide variety of interests and passions, and as we've seen, various learning areas are not just those subjects or topics that dwell on tech alone. Then the high ceilings is we can continuously progress and advance and grow and build more and more on what we have. These principles become very key in what we are doing. Okay, so then the creative learning spiral, just mentioned very quickly, the process of imagining, being able to come up with a solution based on a problem that we have, and then we can be able to create a solution that answers to that particular problem. Then by playing, what we mean is that ability to tinker, working around whatever problem we have and trying to improve on it as much as we can. Then we are able to share. Yeah, this comes back to the aspect of peers as well, where whatever we have and we are able to share it with our friends or those who we are working with, and from the feedback that we get, we can reflect. Then we begin the process once again of imagining and improving. So the iterative process of of all this becomes very important in coming up with a very amazing product in the end. So I think I've spoken so much. At this particular point, please give me the honor of, I have the honor of introducing an amazing person and a good friend, Teacher Joel Kahindi, yeah, who will be taking us through his experiences. And at this particular point, I'd like us to welcome Teacher Joel with our favorite emoji. Yeah, just react with your favorite emoji as we welcome Teacher Joel. Joel, karibu sana.
Yes, thank you, Lazarus, and that's very wonderful to be here this evening. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Loud and clear, Joel.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good evening once again. My name is Joel, as Lazarus has put it, and so I'm here today. I'm here at this point just to share like what the title of the webinar was designed. It's not about like getting to hear from the expert, but just sharing some of the practices that are the best practices that we as teachers and me included that we have been doing over time. So Lazarus, if you could drop the screen, that will be fine.
Okay, floor is yours.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the discussion has always been Scratch, and it's my hope that the teachers on board have heard about Scratch. And if anybody is joining for the first time, then yes, you need to know what Scratch is and what it can do. And so maybe in the chat box, you could just share your understanding. What is Scratch? What is Scratch? And have you ever used Scratch with your learners? There are two questions for you. You could just say what Scratch is. This one you can pick directly from uh, the Google, use AI. And then you also need to tell us like, have you ever used Scratch with your learners? And of course, the answer should be yes. If it's no, don't worry. We shall really find a way of supporting each other. But then we need to know, like, what is the starting point in terms of Scratch usage in the classroom? So Lazarus, you could pick some few comments from the chat if they're there. And as we proceed, then you could also think of why do you even think of using Scratch in the classroom?
So we have a response from Kitao Katana. It's a visual-based programming, and yes, I have used and I'm using it. Thank you so much, Katana. Yes,
Wonderful.
yes.
So as the comments keep coming, we could proceed. We, in this advent of new curriculum, we all know that the curriculum has been, we have moved from the 844. Now we are talking of CBC, CBE. And so when you talk of Scratch, for me, I have been using Scratch just like my best friend Katana. And yes, I use it each and every moment. And when I think about Scratch, it brings into me that level of creativity, level of collaboration, and to some extent, problem solving. So when you talk of Scratch, I try to realign it to the curriculum, which is competence-based education, and that is about creativity, collaboration, problem solving. So then how have I used Scratch? So Scratch, as defined by my friend there, the visual programming software, the visual programming application, which is block-based in nature, it's usually very, very appealing to the learners because of the color coding to those blocks. And so if um, you have your learners, and in this time, talk of learners like maybe right from grade 3 to perhaps grade 9, those learners can learn Scratch. They just need to get the basics. So integrating Scratch in the classes, integrating Scratch in the grades. That is, for me, I do it from grade 4, partly grade 5, moving along to grade 9. But then I don't just use Scratch for the sake of it. I bring the connection to the curriculum. And as I do that, I also try to think of how best can I make the projects or make Scratch to be kind of interdisciplinary. In that case, then some projects will be science-based, but in it or in them, there's some element of maths, there's some element of English. So not only one project for Scratch in science. And that's what I mean by cross-curricular opportunities. That Scratch can be a platform where you can use to teach science, you can use to teach English, you can use to teach pre-tech. It's only a matter of just understanding what is it that you need to like plug in to the learning experience to bring out uh, that bit of Scratch as a project. So again, we are talking of project-based and learner-centered approach, which in this case, as you think about Scratch, you also think about computational thinking, where you think of the problems facing you or facing the community, and then break down the problems into manageable chunks, find the solutions that can work. They could be in form of games, they could be in form of plays, and that again can be done in form of Scratch projects. So how do we plug in those learning experiences in the lesson plan? For me, I have tried and it has worked. So first of all, as teachers, we know how to do lesson planning. In this case, we are not going to get into the nitty-gritties of lesson planning, but you need to have the subject or the learning area. It could be maths, it could be science, it could be Kiswahili, and then that strand you are teaching. For me, I teach science and technology. That is for grade 5. And so there's that topic, that strand, weather and instrument. I have used Scratch to come up with projects, and the learners have had a good time to even try to connect the weather elements in a broad perspective. So what you need to do, you need to identify your teaching area as your area of specialization. This is the subject, and then the strand, of course. And now, as you do the lesson planning, there's that bit of lesson development which has the steps. So one of the steps, one of the learning experience could be create animation to explain how an instrument works. So that bit of creation is a hands-on activity. So when I plug in this activity to my lesson plan, then it means at one point I have to do an activity which is a project in Scratch. And the duration varies. It could be 35 minutes, could be double lesson, but because you have differentiated type of, I mean, you have learners learning different um, capabilities, you need to like be a flexible person so that every learner can benefit. So the breakdown here of the lesson, as usual, teachers will do introduction, And that introduction could be like a song or anything that you feel motivates the learner. But for this lesson, I have ever, I mean, the lesson I've handled, I usually also try to bring in the discussion at this point where we talk about weather instrument, we brainstorm and think about what they do. Weather instruments have so many. We have wind vane, we have thermometer. So depending on my lesson plan, I could have maybe picked wind vane, thermometer, or let's say rain gauge, any of those instruments that are tailored for that lesson. So I move down to the lesson and I provide guided exploration. So you could show the scratch animation. And this again could have come like prior, because if you're doing it for the first time in that lesson, perhaps it's going to be more of like dragging the blocks if the learners are very new. But if they have some bits of scratch understanding, now you could show the scratch animation and try to like provoke their thinking. What if? Questions thrown to them can also mean a lot when they come to brainstorming what to do next. So moving down to the lesson is now the project execution. And this is where now we say the rubber meets the road. These are hands-on projects. Learners create in pairs. And remember, we are so much limited in resources. So creation in pairs can work for me. Creation in, like in groups of 3 can also work depending on the resources you have. But remember, if it's in pairs, then the output will also be of high quality. Then the project can be extended. The main focus should be the process, not the output. So you keep like supporting the learners, try to see what are the challenges and how best can you support them to even come up with the best output in that um, designing of the project, which in this case, perhaps they're designing a wind event, which is one of the weather instruments in question. So then you could present the project. The project could be presented maybe in class. They could share. And again here, the projects can be shared even when they are not completed, just like to appreciate the work the students have done to a certain level, and then give them feedback. That feedback should be constructive, aimed to help the learner even better their work as they progress. And of course, the reflection is when the project is presented as a complete project, then yeah, you could think of what has worked, what are the strengths, what is it that need to be improved. And so that is not meant just to come from the teacher, but even the peers in class could also give a reflection. So when you talk about, again here, the project in Scratch, we have had and we have seen, and it's true also, scholars have seen that when you use Scratch in the lesson and as part of the learning in that lesson, then your lessons become very enjoyable. They are actually very exciting. The learners are happy. And from what I've seen with the learners I have, then they actually can't even miss school, for especially for the days that they know we have a lesson that will touch on Scratch. Then, of course, that bit of peer working, peer collaboration, it's also very prominent that learners are able to share their thinking processes together, and they are also able to like fix the bugs together. And that's a process that even as they grow older, they also see the need of like I can't stand alone, I need the other, so that something can be of great value. Creativity and ownership of the project, they do with your support, and one time they can even be proud of themselves. they increase their creativity, and you just see amazing work coming out of them. You could have maybe introduced to them a few blocks, maybe motion, maybe looks, but the project could even um, you could see the project have some extensions, could see the project with blocks in variables, and that's about creativity and trying to think outside the box to have the projects even stretch further and be the best they could be. We are faced with so many challenges, and this part of challenges, we have always said Serikali's idea, and that has been a slogan. But then we can't just sit and wait for that government to help or whoever is around, the NGOs, the parents. We need to like find our ways to help ourselves to some extent. So the challenges are many, including limited devices, which is like the most outstanding challenge in most of the government schools. We have uneven tech skills, like the students learn in different, um, they have different understanding capabilities. So their levels of engagement also varies. How do you bring all of them on board as they make a project, as they make that lesson come to a success? Internet issues, power outages sometimes, time constraints. We have so many activities in school, and thinking about Scratch, you need to like have passion yourself as an educator, otherwise you'll be pushed out of balance because the schedule is so tight, and if you're not very keen, then you will feel like I am so much pressed and I can't even have a learning experience in this lesson which talks about Scratch. So what are some of the challenges? I mean, the solutions you could put in the chat. You could put what you feel can come as a solution. What you feel can come as a solution. And that could be addressing one of these challenges or any of the challenges you are facing at your school.
Okay, thank you so much, Jul. So I'm getting a response from Rajab.
Yes,
So Rajab is saying use offline versions of Scratch as one
sure.
of the potential solutions. Yes.
Thank you, Rajab. I think that has always worked. And Rajab has even gone out of his way, like installing offline Scratch to some schools. And that can also be one of the best solutions because Scratch also works offline. So apart from that, you could talk of rotational groups. Okay, you could also do like if the class are big classes, you could do some groupings. Okay, and that even staggering the activities. And I'm very sure by the end of each all, at least those learners will have benefited. Then the teachers, of course, need to do some demonstration, or you need to just like share some tips from where do these learners need to start. So that can also be a very important point coming as a solution. Peer mentorship, we have had so many communities of practice, and even teachers are really requested to belong to those communities and contribute, share your challenges, share your strengths, share your successes. In that way, then you can also learn from others. And even what seemed to be like a very big challenge to you can also, it can be like something that can be shared so that others can also contribute and see how best can we support each other. Of course, scaffolding, help each other, the teachers to start with. You cannot teach using Scratch if you, the teacher, do not know what Scratch is all about. So you need to like empower yourself. That is now personal initiative. Scratch competition could also be some of those motivators. And in this case, you can do it in school, like a class against a class. You can do it inter schools if there are schools around that do like integrate Scratch in their teaching. You could think of game jams where maybe just invite people, like-minded people, to come and see what the children can do in terms of Scratch and doing project using the visual project a platform. So spread the project over lessons. This can be 2 lessons. This can be maybe 3 lessons, even some days there is no harm, because you know by the end of each, the most important thing is the acquisition of skills and not the completion of the syllabus, as they so say it. So that those can be some of the challenge, I mean, mitigation strategies or measures we can adopt. And I've, some of them, I have used them myself and I've found that they are working. We have had competitions over time, and yeah, the students can do uh, a lot of uh, projects which are really connecting and solving issues in terms of games and also plays. So then, best practice as a teacher, what do you need to do? As a teacher, what do you need to do? For me, I've always been doing this. It could be something that you can also try and see if it will work. Start with simple projects. Okay. In this simple project, could maybe begin a small kind of um, an organized structure. You can call it a club or anything that you meet regularly to discuss about Scratch and how Scratch can support learning. So that now you have people who, the learners, like in every class, when you have now a plug-in activity in that lesson talking about Scratch, then those few learners that are in the club can be support system to the groupings of the larger class. And as I said, I also link to, I have a close link to the curriculum. And we really appreciate the fact that the curriculum in itself talks about Scratch. Visual programming is one of it, talking of make code. We are not off the track. We are just doing what the curriculum demands. And so it's upon us to be just very intentional and see if we can really support these learners to be the best that give like step-by-step procedures in terms of where do I start, where do I go. These templates can provoke the thinking. For me, I use an AI tool called defeat.me to just generate content, I mean templates that the learners can use during even when we have the unplugged activities before we get into the real coding. Then reflections, very key, and then showcase student work. If students' work is shown and the student is like, this is your work, the parents come and see, donors come and see, then that parent gets motivated and the creativity can even grow. This learner can do great work in future. So as we come to the end, talk of Scratch, which informs learning. And then that learning is in a way that it's so enjoyable. So the learners explore, the learners push their ways in terms of what can I create using Scratch? What can I do even beyond the lesson work? What can I do? What can I create? That bit of identifying the problems, breaking down the problems, finding solutions step by step. And those problems now, in their own small way, learners could design a just simple game that educates the masses, educates people on environmental issues or anything which is of a global concern. So as teachers, we need to empower the learners for the digital world. We cannot. If we teach the way we were taught in those days, then I think we shall be robbing these learners their future, and we can't be comfortably sitting and talk of 21st century learner if you, the teacher, has not had an effort to make it happen. So the clerical call, what is the bottom line here? Then let's code as teachers, just learn the skill. Anyone can learn Scratch. You don't have to have that background of computer science. You can learn Scratch. You can even learn other programming languages. Only that you need to have the growth mindset and that you are open to even reflections and feedback. Of course, collaborate. You can't do it alone, just like the learners, as have always advocated. So I have a project here, which is work in progress for my learners. And as I try to plug this project, maybe you can push some questions if they're there. Uh, then we can see if yeah, if there are questions, you could raise up the hand or could put it in the chat. We see if we can try to answer them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Joel. It has actually been quite insightful. I was listening so much I forgot I was the host. Okay, I think so. So as Teacher Joel has rightfully said, if anyone has any question or any reaction towards all that has been shared, please feel free to send it on the text. Sorry, on the chats, or just come off mute and share your question as the project is loading. Yeah.
So and now this is one of the projects that we are working on. And then the beauty of this, we realize that you can also do coding in Kiswahili. So very interesting. You can even learn new words here. If you are a teacher of Kiswahili. And then as I was talking about um, the weather instruments, yeah, you could just come up with a very simple ideas, provoke their thinking, see what they are able to do, and just appreciate. In this case, this is work in progress, and you could just see they have just put a backdrop, they have just put one of the weather instrument and a couple of their choice. So it's kind of a story, but then as maybe you keep pushing their thoughts processes, they can even make these uh, the weather instruments have life, just like a real animation. Yeah. So this is work for grade 5. Yeah. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Lazarus. If there are questions, we can pick them. And yeah, it's good to have everyone on board. Let's keep doing this. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Joel. Thank you once again. As the questions are coming, for those anyone who'd like to ask a question, please come off mute and ask, and also feel free to use the chat to ask your questions. Maybe as the questions are coming, I'm actually quite curious, Teacher Joel. Um, I have this question: what changes have you noticed in your students since you started using Scratch, if any?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. There are a lot of changes. And I must confess that these learners have really elevated their teamwork spirit. Because for me, I have always broken down the task, and the task to be done has to actually be done in either pairs or groups. But the output, the final product, is dependent on everyone's effort. So you realize that at one point, I have always thought that I can grow my skills in computer program, not only Scratch alone, I can even become better. So whatever I learn, I try it with my students. And that growth mindset in me keeps pushing me that I can even do great things with these learners, and all learners are able to do something out of using Scratch. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other question? Any other question? I'm sorry for stealing that particular moment. I was just very curious.
No,
Okay.
no, it's okay.
Okay. Proceed. Please don't feel shy. You can come off mute or ask any question, even as we continue, since we are almost heading at the top of the hour. Uh, please feel free to ask those questions. As always, we'll share this particular presentation along with various links that will serve as learning resources for all of you and those who'd like to get to know more about about Scratch. So then I'd also like to share uh, a link to our feedback survey. So we can also just take a minute or two just to fill it so that it can also help us to learn a bit more. But all the same, all these links are going to be very much available for those who'd like to have them at their later time. Okay. Then one more time maybe. So Joel, as we wind up, maybe as a parting shot, yeah. How would you encourage or guide another teacher who wants to get started with Scratch? Just as a parting shot, what advice would you give
Yeah,
them?
sure, sure. Yeah, sure. Thank you, Lazarus. I think anyone who needs to start, that is for the teachers. Um, it's always amazing to try new things. Sometimes it can be messy, but you need to persist. You need to persist and be consistent. And then it again depends on your level of entry into this space. If you are really a beginner, then I'd wish you kind of get some, uh, join the learning communities where, like the one for Edutab, where we have webinars. You can learn some tips on how to even plug in some activities in Scratch. You can also get into Microsoft Learn. This is a free platform where you can learn about Scratch and how you can integrate it um, in your lessons. Yeah, you can also um, yes, you can also just do some visits to the nearest schools, the schools that are doing well. Just learn from your friend, ask some few questions. How has this person been doing? And what is it that you can adopt? I think that can kickstart your journey. Yeah. But the mindset should be right. That growth mindset. You should make sure that you actually inculcate the growth mind that I can do it, regardless of your age. You can learn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Joel. That's simply is amazing. I can't add anything to that, and it's also so much impactful to me as well. So there are still more links which are being dropped on the chat to help you get more resources on how to learn or best practices for Scratch. And then I saw a hand up from Rajab. Don't know if Rajab you have something to mention before we close.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Abdurrahman Rajab, an educator, master trainer in creative learning, and a lifelong learner. What I want to just say, first of all, kudos to Joel for very educative presentation. And maybe my parting shot could be: you don't need a computer for every learner to teach coding. With creativity, teamwork, and simple resources, you are showing that the mindset matters more than machine. So we can even start by using, even if you don't have maybe a tablet or a computer, you can use what we call human scratch, where you are just telling the learners move 10 steps, and the rest will be. That's what I can add for now.
Thank you so much, Rajab. That's simply amazing. And yeah, it shows that even with limited resources, there's so much we can do as we await for more resources to come to help us in our work. So, this particular point in time, let me just take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you so much for all of you. Special thanks to Shajul for the wonderful presentation, and as well to all you teachers who've taken your time to be here. Yeah, it means so much to us as Edutab Africa, especially the fact that you'd really like to take this initiative and use Scratch as a tool to help build more on the learning outcomes that you like to achieve. And I hope that it's been insightful to you as it has been insightful to us as well. And with that, I say thank you once again, and I wish you a blessed evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.